This podcast is sponsored by Uncomfortable Ideas by Bo Bennett, PhD. Challenge your beliefs and embrace the uncomfortable. Discover the power of confronting ideas that push your boundaries. Get the book or enroll in the online course today at uncomfortable-ideas.com.
Cultural appropriation, challenging the status quo and embracing uncomfortable conversations. Explore the complexities of cultural appropriation, respectful cultural exchange, and the power dynamics that shape these uncomfortable truths. Understanding the complexities of cultural appropriation. So here's a topic that always seems to stir up a lot of debate: cultural appropriation. You might have encountered it online or in conversations where someone calls out another person for stealing from a culture that's not their own. And I get it. There's something about taking elements from another culture and turning them into fashion, entertainment, or trends that can feel uncomfortable or outright disrespectful. But honestly, the whole thing seems a lot more complicated than it's often made out to be. At first glance, cultural appropriation sounds pretty straightforward. When one group borrows from another culture, especially when there's a power imbalance, it can lead to exploitation or damage. Examples are everywhere. Wearing traditional headdresses as a fashion statement, adopting sacred symbols without understanding their significance, or popping traditional hairstyles into pop culture without giving credit or respecting their origins. And yeah, those are blatant examples where you might say the original culture is being disrespected or even exploited. But here's where it gets tricky. Where do we draw the line between cultural appreciation and appropriation? At what point does borrowing cross over into disrespect? Humans have always shared, borrowed, and mixed cultures. You see it in food, music, language, and even ideas. This process has shaped societies for centuries. So is all cultural borrowing bad? Or are we just challenging the status quo by pointing out the uncomfortable truths about how power and privilege play into these exchanges? If you look at the history of cultural mixing, it's not all exploitation. Sometimes it's about appreciation and curiosity, a genuine admiration for another way of life. But the problem, of course, is when this appreciation is one-sided and unbalanced, where the originating culture is reduced to a commodity or a costume, and its people are ignored or marginalized. That's where it becomes offensive and exploitative. At the same time, the conversation around cultural appropriation often triggers a lot of uncomfortable conversations and conflicting perspectives, and that's not a bad thing. It's important to embrace discomfort if we want to understand these complexities better. When people feel accused unfairly or misunderstood, the discussion can get defensive quickly, which stops us from really considering different viewpoints. Personally, I think it's worth thinking about why we care so much about where certain styles or traditions come from. Is it about respect, identity, or is it sometimes about controlling who gets to participate in certain cultural expressions? These are thought-provoking questions that don't have black and white answers, but are essential if we want to understand the issue fully. One way to approach this conversation is to listen to the voices from the cultures involved, learning their stories, understanding their feelings about certain cultural elements being used or adopted, and then reflecting on how to engage respectfully. It's about more than just avoiding offense. It's about mutual respect and acknowledgement. If borrowing happens with respect and awareness, it becomes less about appropriation and more about cultural exchange. On the flip side, there's also a risk of policing cultures so strictly that it stifles creativity or honest admiration. Sometimes people worry about offending others so much that they end up avoiding these conversations entirely. That's why I value discussions that don't shy away from offensive topics or uncomfortable truths. They can be the most enlightening. If you find this topic intriguing or challenging your viewpoint, I recommend checking out the book Uncomfortable Ideas by Bo Bennett, PhD. It's a thought-provoking read that encourages embracing discomfort and understanding different perspectives, especially on tough societal topics like this one. Explore the book now and see how it can help you confront some of these complicated issues in a way that's both thoughtful and eye-opening. Ultimately, cultural appropriation isn't just about what people wear or imitate. It's wrapped up in history, power, respect, and identity. By having honest discussions, even if they're uncomfortable, we can hopefully move toward a more respectful way of sharing and appreciating the rich cultures that make up our world.